You will not have intercourse outside of marriage. This phrase, Hind was not sarcastic, she was shocked. She was not coming with a swift comeback. On the contrary, she was shocked. What type of condition is this? And she said, أَوَتَزْنِ الْحُرَّةُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Does any free lady of dignity commit zina that you have to put this condition on us? In other words, even though she is not a Muslim at the time, she's lived her life in pre-Islam, the concept of intercourse outside of marriage, she was like, what? Why would you put this condition on us? Is it even possible that a dignified lady will do this, right? This was the perception they had pre-Islam. And again, I'd like to remind us, in this land, you will be shocked to find out that all of these trends go back one generation. Back in the 30s and 40s, the people are still alive of this land. In their age, if somebody wanted to marry another person, they would have to ask permission from the father of the lady to go out on a date. And the date would be chaperoned. And the goal would be not just flirting around. No, this is now of marriageable age. The man has a job, he's 25, 26 years old. The lady's 22, 23. The goal is, are we compatible? This is back in the 40s and 50s. It was impossible in that era, and that's why if a lady became pregnant one generation ago, it was a matter of shame for that family. They would send the girl to some type of private boarding school. This is literally one generation ago. Things have changed completely from the 60s and second wave feminism and the radical movements, from the free sexual liberation movements and whatnot. All of this changed in the late 60s, early 70s. All of this. Before this point in time, even this land and all of the Western world, they had remnants of haya, they had remnants of dignity and decency. One generation and everything has changed, so much so that these days, if a young kid in high school is not dating, the counselor will have a conversation. What's wrong with you? Everything okay? Everything okay? Why aren't you doing something, right? And statistics, wallahi, are depressing. Over 70, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but you're going to hear this from me. Listen, hiding these statistics is not going to change reality. Perhaps some of you might be shocked, oh my God, he's speaking like this in the masjid. Ya akhi, if I don't speak about it in the masjid, where else are you going to hear it? If you're not going to understand, I'm not going to understand that our children are living in this land, and they're facing these problems, and we don't solve them here, where else do you expect them to be solved? So I apologize for now. I'm still, you don't know my habits that well, but I don't shy away from speaking that which is going to protect our community. Over 75% of teenagers in this land are engaging in intercourse. Teenagers, 75%, both genders. Stop deluding yourself that your children and your child is an angel. Stop deluding yourself. My child and your children are living in the same land. May Allah protect all of us. We need to be aware of this. I'm sorry to be so blunt. A colleague of mine did her PhD in a Canadian university in sociology. I know her. I read her summary of the PhD. I have it on my file. And the PhD was the drug and sexual habits of Muslims on college campuses. The most thorough survey done of our Muslim community. And I'm not going to give you the numbers because honestly I thought I knew, but reading that it was like a dagger to my heart. We have an endemic crisis. I'm not going to give you the numbers. Suffice to say, it is terrifying. Terrifying. She did an anonymous survey, the most thorough survey of college-going Muslim boys and Muslim girls. Drug use, tobacco use, alcohol, and zina. And the surveys are there. It's a public PhD. You can even find it if you want and look at it. It's there. The findings are there. This is the world we live in. Now my point is, this could never have been predicted even 100 years ago. Even 100 years ago. No one could have predicted this type of revolution, because these families, the same people that we're living amongst, they had haya as well. I mean, if you watch Little House on the Prairie, they're wearing hijab better than some of us wear hijab. That's the reality. They had strict laws. Men and women are not going to be together, in public. They're not going to go out on a date unless it is meant for marriage purposes. There's no such thing as casual dating. All of this has changed, and our Prophet ﷺ predicted what? He predicted intisharu zina. Zina would be everywhere. And he also predicted that nudity would be everywhere. Fahisha would be everywhere. That people would show their bodies in public. And again, I don't need to comment to you. I just want to mention once again, these are things we don't understand and know. But in this country, in our own generation, the issues of pornography have changed radically. In the 60s even, it was technically illegal to get pornography. In the 60s. And the famous, Hustler magazine guy went to the Supreme Court and overturned the ruling. And in one generation, from it being illegal to get a magazine, now pornography is ruining every household in this land, and we still are reeling from the damages because of the internet and whatnot. Who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted this? One generation ago, the government, our government, had a special body to monitor Hollywood. And any scene that was deemed to be immoral was cut off. This is Hollywood. And that is why you will not find nudity in black and white movies. Why? Because our own government had some haya. And they would monitor Hollywood movies, subhanAllah, in the 30s and 40s. If it showed drug use or extramarital affairs, the movie would have to show that the people who did it suffered, because they wanted to teach morality. They wanted to demonstrate that drug users don't end up happy. They wanted to demonstrate extramarital affairs, they have problem. This is in this land. That's why if you look at the 40s and 50s, Clark Gable, all of these famous people, you look at their movies, overall there's a positive image, not that negative. Nowadays, a'udhu billah, even Disney Channel, you have to say astaghfirullah, tawbah, tawbah when you watch Disney Channel, right? When I grew up, Disney Channel was relatively innocent back in the 80s and whatnot, relatively innocent, okay? We grew up in a different era. Now, Disney Channel itself, every second joke is a sexual innuendo. Every second thing is about boyfriend, girlfriend, and then these days boyfriend as well. Who could have predicted this in one generation? Our Nabi ﷺ predicted it. He predicted it in an era and a time place where no one could have imagined that nudity would be prevalent. And he said that this is going to be the norm. So much so, and the hadith is explicit, and this hadith is authentic, that a time will come when copulation will occur in public like donkeys do. In public. And wallahi, I think we are even less than one generation away, Wallahu musta'an. The way things are headed now, Allah protect us. And there will be a man who will see this happening, and he will say to them, couldn't you get a room? Couldn't you go behind a door or a wall? And that man, the Prophet ﷺ said, will be deemed by them to be so righteous the way you look at Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Look at this. And if you look at where this society is heading, I swear to you, it is terrifying. Anyone above the age of 35, you see how quickly, you teenagers, you youngsters, for you this seems to be the norm. We who have grown up in the 70s and 80s, we will tell you how quickly things have changed in our own lifetimes. From where to where. And what's going to happen in one generation? It's exponentially changing. It's not changing, steadily. No, it's exponentially changing. And frankly, that also explains the rise of weird manifestations of sexual habits as well, which we're seeing as well, because this is what happens when you open the door. Who predicted this? Our Prophet ﷺ. He mentioned that towards the end of times, there will be a lot of women who, they are clothed and yet they are naked. Kasiyatun ariyat. Hadith is in Bukhari. In other words, they're not dressed properly. And ma'ilatun mumilat. They will love to entice others, and others will love to be enticed by them. In other words, what this means, flirtation is open and sexuality is open. Our elders here don't know what Tinder is. This is what Tinder is. This is exactly what it is. They want to do one way and the other one wants to do back to them. This is now open without even haya. Haya itself has gone. And this is explicitly predicted by the Prophet ﷺ, that of the last things to be gone from mankind will be haya. When haya is gone, wait for Judgment Day. And we see this as well. Of the things predicted as well is the proliferation of intoxications towards the end of times, and the proliferation of music as well. Now, music existed in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It existed, but it wasn't common. It wasn't the norm. Intoxicants existed, of course, but again, it wasn't the norm.